Uh, I guess some of us with common sense knew that this wasn't going to end well. Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Gaming here to share with you my official movie review for Ridley Scott's latest film titled Gladiator 2. I saw this last Thursday night at about 6 to 9, and I'm going to be honest, I don't actually recall any specific names for a lot of the actors, so for my review, I'm just going to be going by their names or their characters in order just to get my point across. Now, this film is obviously a sequel to 2000's masterpiece, which is titled Gladiator, starring Russell Crowe and an amazing cast involving Joaquin Phoenix and a bunch of other really impressive actors. And I openly regard Gladiator as being the very movie that got me interested in the Roman Empire era. I would say, as someone who's really big into history, my two favorite eras to study is definitely World War II, number one, and the Roman Empire, number two. And I think the first film for that. And I'm going to be honest, there had been rumors that they wanted to do a sequel for Gladiator 2 for a long time. Personally, I felt, like I'm sure many people, that the first film was just a masterpiece. It was a self-sufficient film. It didn't need no sequel. It didn't need to become a franchise. And I think most of us who thought that probably would feel in the right. And the question that I went into this movie was, is it good enough to justify its own existence? And I can tell you right out of the gate, no, it does not. Everything that I was afraid of was going to happen ended up happening. Now, just guys, give you a quick little summary with some mild spoilers because this movie has been out for almost about a week. So anybody who was going to go see it has probably seen it by now. So this movie takes place about 16 years after the events of the first film, and Lucius has been sent away by his mother to some other continent. He grows up as a farmer, and he's in a certain area that gets attacked by the Roman Empire. His wife gets killed. He gets taken in to become a slave. Then he gets bought by Denzel Washington's character, who is like a trainer of gladiators, in order to fight in the Colosseum for some political reasons. And there's some involvement involving the two emperors that have now taken control of Rome. And there's some coup. And now, here's the biggest problem. The two biggest cardinal sins that this film commits are this. Number one, this film does such a poor job at trying to take ideas from the first film and just redo them again, but not as good. And the reason why this is a big sin is that the best way to make a genuine sequel, the best way to justify making this movie, is to do everything in your power to not remind me of the first film. And this movie does that all throughout the film. In fact, the very first scene in the film, the opening, is basically just scenes from the first film done in this weird painting filter. And as I was watching this film and I was seeing these story elements play out, and I could recognize that this was taken from this part in the first one. This happened in the first one. This thing happened in the first one. Almost in order. It just kept me thinking, you know what? I would actually pay double what I paid to see this movie in theaters just to see the original in theaters. I never got a chance to see the original one in theaters. I saw that on VHS when my dad picked a copy of it at Blockbuster, which, if you don't remember what Blockbuster is, then dang, that's how I know I'm getting really old. But I think another major cardinal sin this film commits is that it is just boring. In fact, this movie was so boring, I literally fell asleep for about twice. I must have missed about 20 minutes of this film, but odds are I probably didn't miss too much. I think the performances across the board are fine. I don't think any one actor did a really bad job at the role, but the role was just kind of whatever. Denzel Washington, I think he's the only real standout performance, but he's just kind of giving you the typical Denzel Washington performance that you would expect. So he was the only really one that stood out the most. The action scenes weren't even good. They were kind of ridiculous. Now, I need to go into some mild spoilers just to explain as for why each of the battle scenes did not make any sense. So here's just some small spoilers. So the first main battle scene is the siege that Rome has against this kingdom or whatever. And the reason it almost doesn't work is that because the whole point as for why Lucius is mad, he wants to get revenge on this general, is because his wife gets killed. The problem is that his wife is fighting on the front lines against the Romans, and when she fires an arrow at the general, he retaliates and tells his surrounding guards to shoot back at her, which is perfectly justified. So her getting killed was her own fault. Now compare that to the original one. Maximus's family were at home, were completely vulnerable and could not protect himself, and Maximus was trying to get back to them to stop that from happening. That's how you feel for the character. But if she's out on the front lines and fighting and she gets killed, well, what did you expect was going to happen? So I already don't feel any real sympathy for Lucius and this just unclenching rage. It's like, well, dude, what did you expect was going to happen? And then the next fight scene, and they're fighting these mutated baboons, which the CGI just looked awful. Now, here's where it got really, really stupid. So apparently, the reason that Denzel Washington buys Lucius's character is because he bites into a baboon's arm and then chokes it out. Now, here's what really bothered me about this scene. There were like 6 or 7 of these baboons, and like maybe 5 gladiators, including Lucius. As soon as one of the baboons gets killed by Lucius, what are the other baboons doing? Why did they stop fighting all of a sudden? It's like, because this one baboon went down, they all stop fighting. And this happens again in the next action scene with the rhino. Lucius goes into the arena with like 4 other gladiators. One of them gets killed, which means that there's still 4 of them. And then Lucius has to take on like the rhino and the rider by himself. What were the other 3 guys doing? It's like they completely disappeared. And it's stuff like that that was like annoying. Like, if you're going to set up these battle scenes, at least have them play out so that they make sense. If you're going to put 5 gladiators out there, I want to see 5 gladiators be doing something. Not just focus on Lucius and him fighting whatever threat is there. Because then you take me out of the movie. And then by the end, it just seemed like everyone was just making all these stupid decisions, and it just got annoying. I would say like the last third is like their main attempt to try to do something different from the original, but it's done so stupidly, like you don't take it seriously anymore. And then at that point, I was just hoping that the movie would be over. And then when it was finally over, I was just like, well, that was a big waste of my time. I think had I seen this movie maybe 3 weeks earlier, it probably would have made the list of like my top 5 movies that just did not deserve a sequel, because nothing this film did justify its existence. And on top of that, it was boring. And that is the worst thing you can do. I mean, at least get some kind of emotional response. Either excite me or piss me off, but don't bore me to sleep. That's even worse. So if I had to give Gladiator 2 a rating, I would probably give it like a D+. I would say that the best things about it was, the performances were fine and the movie looked good. But like the CGI looks awful. But like to kind of see Rome, even though this isn't like an accurate like representation of Rome, was nice to see. It was nice to kind of see it in like modern visuals. So I'll give it that. But that's about it. So that is my review of Gladiator 2. Now, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Did you happen to enjoy it? Because I know that there's some people that did happen to enjoy it. Or were you just as disappointed as I was? Or were you bored with it as I was too? Let me know in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome. And I'll see you guys next time.